Hi. In 2011, there were riots in central London over the police shooting of a member of a London community. And there were then imitation riots popping up here and there all over Britain, with the media there ready to film everyone. The BBC got on board straight away, pushing its narrative of the benefit culture and how we need to destroy it. This was prepping the nation for accepting the draconian cuts in benefits that were going to leave tens and thousands dead. Okay. Now, here we are in 2019, and we've got this piece of work being given a voice on the BBC.
I am amazed that there haven't been riots yet. That's the most amazing thing to me.
Do you think there will be?
I think there should be.
Should be?
Yes.
Brendan.
I am amazed that there haven't been riots yet. That's the most amazing thing to
Do
me.
you think there will be?
I think there should be.
Should be?
Yes.
Brendan.
I am amazed that there haven't been riots yet. That's the most amazing thing to
Do
me.
you think there will be?
I think there should be.
Should be?
Yes.
Brendan.
He's amazed that there hasn't been riots yet, and he thinks there should be. For a Brexit being imposed by a government that has been judged criminal by our Supreme Court, that has never been elected, a Prime Minister that's never been elected. And this is from the BBC, who very recently have sacked this lady because they claim that she she broke the rules. She broke the rules, didn't she? For making a comment, for stating the fact that Trump's comments are racist. Munchetty. She had every right, and the BBC's explanation, I think there needs to be a public inquiry into the BBC and about who are they serving? They're getting British money. Who are they serving? Because they're not serving British interests. Britain is a multicultural society. Fact. That's not going to change. No amount of EDLs, UKIP, you name it. You're not going to change the fact that Britain is a multicultural society. Multi-ethnic society. So we've got them calling for riots on behalf of a hard Brexit that will kill perhaps millions of people. There's no two ways about it, either through rioting, martial law, starvation, lack of medicines. Millions impoverished, literally destitute overnight. No plan, no economic policy to pull us out of this mess other than to turn us into a tax haven. Singapore-on-the-Thames is what they want. Singapore-on-the-Thames. There you go, Singapore-on-the-Thames. What they have in mind can be summed up. Sweeping tax cuts for corporations and rich people. Tax wars as a fiscal weapon. Tax measures such as accelerated capital allowance to attract mobile investments into UK. Oh, a mob of child traffickers maybe. Comprehensive deregulation, removal of social environmental protections, weak or non-existent compliance with international anti-money laundering measures. Yeah, come and bring the world's criminal loot to the shores of Britain. Retaining golden visa arrangements to provide resident rights of wealthy non-British citizens, including exposure to oligarchs and corrupt financial flows. Steadily, stealthily, the British tax system and broader economy has been configured since the 1950s to serve the interests of a class of unaccountable, untouchable, offshore, diving, super-rich swathes of the British political class are deeply embedded in offshore secrecy. And I've shared it before and I'll share him again and again and again. The fantastic, wonderful, amazing Mr. Gordon Bowden, who has all the evidence of all the crimes that they all hope to get away with now by avoiding EU tax regulations, and that's why they want their Brexit, and that is why the BBC is there promoting the right-wing rhetoric and slapping the wrists of its naughty, brown-skinned presenters for daring to state the fact that Trump is racist. And what is very disturbing about this is the reason that they've given now to uphold their decision, which they're saying no, because BBC presenters are not allowed to give a personal opinion on matters of public policy. What? What? Since when did racism become a matter of public policy? What kind of public policy is racist? Oh, Israel, Zionist Israel's public policy is fundamentally, inherently racist. And that is what is being transported into Britain, and that is what has been now accepted in America, apparently. Except it isn't, because the guy's being impeached. Trump is... Well, the evidence against him supports lawful suspicion that the man is a criminal. And we know he's a racist, and we know people have died through his racist comments. And this lady has every right, as a British citizen, presenting news and being asked, you know, has she ever experienced that? And yes, she has. And yes, it is racist, what Trump said. Because Trump, this was about a president who is telling an elected member of Congress, a black elected member of Congress, who is an American citizen and has been since the age of 12, arrived in America as a refugee. He's telling her to go back home, to go back to her own country, because apparently America isn't her country. She's not an elected member of Congress. And, you know, that's his policy. That's a policy telling people of colour to go home from the countries that are their homes. That's a policy. I'm sorry, BBC, do you know what, Naga? Sue the pants off them, please. It is time now that this BBC was brought to account, because they are behaving despicably and dangerously, and not at all the way a free media in a democratic society is meant to operate. Because I'll tell you now, fascism is not a democratic choice. It is a crime, and it incites crimes against vulnerable, innocent people, and creates division. The kind of division that caused riots. The kind of division that caused riots. It's... How is it possible that our teenagers
Riots.
on
Yeah,
Facebook,
that's the most amazing
right? Our teenagers on Facebook in 2011 were getting prosecuted. I think one young lad was even put in prison because it was claimed that a post on Facebook was inciting a riot in his local area. He was prosecuted. This guy is on BBC National News, sat there round this panel here, talking about, I think there should be riots. Excuse me, why are any of you lot even still sat there? Because I tell you something, if I'd have been there, sat next to him, I'd have said, look mate, either you're going now or I'm going, because I am not participating in any propaganda that is going to put the British people's lives at risk and inflict severe social unrest on our society. Thank you very much. Now, I'm telling you now, BBC, I'm going to stop paying my licence fee. In protest, I will cancel my direct debit. I will cut you out of my life, BBC, completely. I never watch BBC News as it is, but I've carried on paying my licence because I support the staff. I recognise that it provides employment for people, and I'm happy to pay my licence and keep those people employed. I know they do not all stand with the people controlling BBC News, which we know they are a propaganda agency, and this is absolute final proof of it. And what they've recently done to Naga now is absolutely disgusting and despicable. And to actually use this, to use her, the action that they've committed against her and the judgment, to actually use that to promote this idea that racist rhetoric from a criminal president is a public policy. It's a public policy. I suppose slavery is a public policy as well. Well, certainly any nation that's prepared to, any free media that's prepared to accept austerity, murdering 130,000 people as a public policy, of course they're prepared to accept Trump going on about, you know, telling American citizens, Congress members at that, to go home. It is outrageous, and you know, this is evidence of what we're up against, people, because that is a threat of war. That when you've got your mainstream media, people on your mainstream media going, I think there should be riots on behalf of what? A Brexit that is going to deliver what to the British people? Tell me, please, all you Brexiteers out there, you hardline Brexiteers who still and yet not yet convinced, tell me one good thing that's going to come out of Brexit for the average British citizen. Nothing. The only thing that will come out of Brexit is for the top 1% criminal financiers that a British citizen, Gordon Bowden, retired RAF engineer, has exposed. That's what they hope to avoid. Jail, actually. So I don't see why we should suffer riots, even more austerity, another perhaps 300,000 dead. Loss of our trade deals, loss of our freedom of movement, loss of all our rights, just to keep a set of criminal bankers out of jail who have to depend on lies and racism as a public policy. Okay, and if it comes to civil war in this country, you will find, you people, that there is nothing on this earth like the wrath of righteous people facing a deadly enemy set to literally slit their children's throats, to take the food off their plate and the rights that our forebears suffered so much and sacrificed so much to provide to us. And you think we're going to just casually let that slip by for the sake of what? Hot air and xenophobia? But I am outraged, absolutely outraged, and I do think there needs to be an investigation into what's going on at BBC News, because actually I would go so far as to say that they are in breach of the services of the Security Services Act 1989, and they are abusing their powers of public office and using a publicly paid for media that's supposed to be a free democratic media to promote fascism as a public policy, because racism is fascism. It is a facet, a keystone of fascism. Fascism is anything, any philosophy that fundamentally seeks to deny the human rights of certain people, for groups of people, because they're Jewish, because they're Muslim, because they're black, because they're poor. You see, that's the fundamental feature of fascism. That the proponents of it will claim that certain groups of people have less rights than other groups of people based on ridiculous actual lies about their, well, the levels of equality of them as human beings. You know, they're somehow inferior, therefore they have less rights. They've been doing it to our children for centuries. Apparently our children are minor human beings, so they naturally have less rights than the rest of us. They did it to women for centuries. They've done it to black people for centuries. This is fascism. So the BBC will be getting a very strong letter from me, hopefully from lots of other people as well. But I do think that there needs to be an inquiry, because I think that incitement to riots there, as I say, when British teenagers are being prosecuted for a post on Facebook that it said, you know, well, it looked like he was inciting a riot, and that, you know, they actually end up fined and imprisoned, okay? And yet this guy can sit there inciting riots for what? For what? For a Brexit to keep criminal bankers out of jail. That's the upshot of it all, people. You don't need to go no further than that. That is what all of this is about. Did anybody see hordes of people going crazy demanding to leave the EU? No, we didn't. Where did it come from, this idea for Brexit? The Tories. Who finances the Tories? The top bankers. Who has been exposed here as criminals? The top bankers. Who is going to be facing scrutiny under EU tax regulations? The top bankers. Who are the BBC supporting? Top bankers. And all of them fascists, because that's how they get so rich, by denying people's human rights and robbing people.